War. What is it good for? Well, we've been talking about it. We've been talking about what it's good for. We're not talking about the SAVE Act. We're not talking about the Save America Act. We're not talking about the Supreme Court stiff-arming his tariffs. We're not talking about the $2 billion in USD1 coin that Sheikh Tanoon bought from him. The $500 million into WLF as soon as he became president from Sheikh Tanoon. We're not talking about that. We're not talking about ICE. We're not talking about all of that. We're not talking about that. That's one thing it's good for. Of course, if we can get a U.S.-friendly replacement over there in Iran, like maybe Ahmadinejad, who had been seen walking around apparently, if they can get a U.S.-friendlier agreement with that country, man, Strait of Hormuz, 20% of the global oil market goes through there. What is this war good for? I'll tell you what else we're not talking about. Epstein. But I'm going to talk about Epstein. I'm going to fulfill my promise that I've been, that I've been giving you, that I would only talk about it when it's real, relevant, impactful. Well, we've got real, relevant, and impactful today. We're going to talk about it. We did, the conflict in the Middle East, 3 straight days, and I loved what we did with that. And multiple people came to me and said, thank you for the extra details. Thank you for some of the, the details on the Kurds, the details on the munitions, their motivations, some of the events that leading up to the decision to strike. And just loved orienting ourselves to that stuff. But we are going to talk about Epstein because it is real, relevant, impactful right now. Right now. Now, this story is making the rounds a little bit. It's bubbling in left-wing circles. It's bubbling on social media. And it's starting to rise to the surface in Congress. It's bubbling. In February 15th, on February 15th, a guy named Roger Sullenberger, he is a independent journalist. He released a story on February 15th. Since the release of the files, we kept saying, just give him some time. There's amazing journalists in this country doing great work, and they will find us the juicy stuff. We said it right here. Just give it time. Just give it time. Well, since the release, Roger Sullenberger had found some of that juicy stuff. That juicy stuff. There was a slideshow last year, right around the time Todd Blanche went and visited Ghislaine Maxwell. The FBI made a slideshow about an investigation into Epstein. This slideshow was accompanied by an email chain about this little slideshow presentation on this particular investigation. In that slideshow and the previous and subsequent email chains about this slideshow, there are 2 specific allegations about Donald Trump. I am bringing these to you. And Roger brought these to you because these are different. These are different. Republicans, MAGA, hard right-wingers, they are trying to push us off the idea that Trump has any credible accusations in the Epstein files. They don't want to hear about 38,000 mentions. They don't want to hear about it. They will tell you every single one is not credible. They all came from hotline tips. That is their talking point, hotline tips, right? None of it was credible. Even though Clinton, who was mentioned a fraction of the number of times that Don was, oh boy, the right was more than happy to go all in on every single mention of Bill Clinton. Face value. Great. Let's get rolling. Let's spin up the propaganda machine on every single Clinton mention. No questions asked. But the 38,000 Trump mentions, no, that's discredited hotline tips. Okay. We've heard your talking point. But these two are different. These two are different. They're from 2 separate people. And we are going to display to you how both of these accusations are dripping in credibility. They're covered in it. It's undeniable credibility to these claims. Why do I say that? First, let's get to the claims. Okay, first, let's get to the claims. The first claim came to the FBI from a hotline tip. It did. But they did their due diligence, and from the hotline tip claim, they tracked down the victim, and they had an interview. Now, we will talk about this victim's credibility and what they said. We will talk about that, but let's hear the accusation. Redacted stated Epstein introduced her to Trump, who subsequently forced her head down and exposed his penis, which she subsequently bit, my hero. In response, Trump punched her in the head and kicked her out. The victim would have been approximately 13 or 15 years old when this occurred. Okay. Now, this claim took place in the 1980s. In the 1980s. Much later, decades later, a tip came into the FBI about this claim. This one right here, this victim. And that got the ball rolling. Okay, she said, the victim also said that she had been an Epstein victim, not just a Trump victim, but she was an Epstein victim as well. They had both sexually abused her. Okay, that's one claim. The second claim. This claim, and we're not even going to go deep diving into this and how credible it is, because we know the credibility of this claim. How do we know the ardent credibility of this claim? Because this claim came from a witness. They used this witness's testimony to convict Ghislaine Maxwell. Not only was this claim wildly credible at the time, it was so ironclad that it was used as evidence to convict Ghislaine. The FBI gold sealed it. Boom, stamped. Stamp of approval. We're going to use it in our case. This is one of our main witnesses against Ghislaine. Well, some other things that this witness had said, this gold star witness for the FBI, some other things that she had said showed up in this slideshow presentation. She said that Epstein introduced a victim to Trump when she was 14 years old, saying, "This is a good one, right?" Which Trump then agreed. That is from a witness who they then used the testimony of to convict Ghislaine. As credible as it gets. So we're not going to focus on that one. We're not going to focus on that one. We're going to focus on the young victim from the 80s. What about the credibility of this tip? Accusation. Well, let's talk about it. Let's talk about it. And by the way, she also had a photo. She had a photo, this young victim. Well, she's not that young at the time that the FBI interviewed her, but she had a photo sent to her from Epstein, still on her phone, and she asked the FBI agents during the interview, "Hey, can I crop out Donald from this photo?" Because it was Epstein and Donald together. She said, "Can I crop out Donald from this?" And the FBI agents downplayed the relevance of the photo, but and asked her, "Why would you want to crop him out?" And her lawyer said, "I'll handle this. It's because she's afraid. Period. She's afraid. She's afraid of Donald and anybody connected to him who might be implicated, point blank." So she had some photos as well. So a tip came in. How this played out. A tip came in to the FBI hotline. The FBI hotline went with this tip and the information the tipster gave them and found the victim. They then sent FBI officers to Washington to interview this victim in 2019. Okay? The Washington offices. This all plays to the credibility. So the information they got from the tip was good enough to go find the victim. The victim was to be found and had things to say to the FBI. So they met in Washington. All right. July 19th, FBI meets this person in Washington, has the interview. Okay? She says it happened in the 80s. I was 13 to 15 years old, and she said at the time I resided in a redacted area, island area of South Carolina. So in her interview, she said I lived in South Carolina in this island area, redacted exactly where. South Carolina island area. Okay. After they had that interview, she had so many credible things to say. She knew so many details, so many things that they could corroborate on the spot. Clearly was telling so much truth that they immediately scheduled a follow-up interview. That's number one. The FBI agents in Washington that day knew damn well she was not bullcrapping. She had too much credible information. We'll talk about that credible information, that some of it divulged, some of it not, but she was credible. FBI, she's credible. Now, those details that she gave those agents, they match up across the board. You want to talk about credibility, about what this woman told these agents about herself and this abuse. Well, the tip itself that came in said a woman in South Carolina was abused in the 80s. Okay? Then that matched with a public report. There was public reporting about a woman who lived in South Carolina and relocated to Vancouver, Washington, right near Seattle, and then sued. Sometime after 2019, sued the Epstein estate successfully for a settlement. Now, that settlement, I dug around, I couldn't find the settlement amount. So after her interview with these FBI agents in Washington, she then sued the Epstein estate successfully. Now, again, I couldn't find exactly how much that was for, but keep in mind, there is an Epstein Estate Victims Fund that has up to this point paid out $121 million in settlements. Whew, man, that is a lot. But we're not going to focus on that. The reporting about this lawsuit had some details in there about the claims of this victim that all matched up with what the FBI had been told that day. In the lawsuit, she said she was raped and assaulted by other prominent wealthy men that she met in other states, most specifically when Epstein took her to New York City and New Jersey. And she said, New Jersey is the place that Trump assaulted me. And you want to talk about what she knew being credible, damaging, believable, corroborating with evidence that they already understood? This settlement, man, it was, as far as evidence goes, as weak as it could get. I mean, she even said herself, she said she'd never written down what happened to her. She only told 2 people about the abuse. One of them was her mother, who was dead, and did not keep a formal diary, and she did not make any recordings of any kind of any of the interactions. And yet, the Epstein estate, boom, settled. Just like that. Just like that. She was convincing enough for FBI agents to schedule follow-up interviews. She was convincing enough for the Epstein estate to say immediately, oh yeah, this happened. She knows what she's talking about. Settle that. And everything that was publicly reported about the lawsuit and the interview on July 19th in Seattle, Washington, they all line up with all public reporting of the matter. You understand how credible this is now? You understand how dangerous this is? Should it be pushed to the forefront? I'll tell you who did understand how relevant and dangerous this could be. Our DOJ. Is it Pam herself? Or somebody below her, Todd Blanche? An order from on high? Let me tell you something. Somebody in the DOJ clearly understood how dangerous and different this is from all of those discredited hotline tip claims that they've been pushing. These were different, and somebody at the DOJ knew that.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. breaks things. Fighting for America, one mic drop at a time.
Two of the most credible Trump accusations thus far. Much different than some of the other stuff. I mean, this tip line, it had bizarre, explicit, and, not credible tips on them. They have about Trump, a lot of them, but these were different. And somebody at the DOJ knew that. That reporting was on February 15th. Roger Sullenberger. Thank you, Roger. 9 days later, on February 24th, reporting came out of NPR. You see, Roger there is an independent journalist, right? He released that on Substack. Small potatoes, relatively. Much larger potatoes than Brett Breaks Things, but small potatoes relevant, in relative to the New York Times, Washington Post, and these big boys, Axios, Politico, Atlantic, right? Small potatoes. So it took a little time. For it to get on everybody's radar. But I'll tell you whose radar it definitely landed on first. The DOJ's. Because by the time NPR and some Democrats from the Oversight Committee, by the time they kind of got around and got hip to Rogers' reporting, the DOJ had been there first. What do I mean? 50 pages. 50 pages of FBI interviews, notes from conversations, other evidence had all been removed since the Roger Sullenberger report. Everything that he reported on with the victim from the 80s, they even redacted the stuff from their own witness, from the own FBI witness that was used in the Ghislaine trial. They even redacted that stuff. They redacted notes, conversations, evidence, all of it. All of it. And other stuff that they found that were accusations against Epstein that mentioned Trump. Gone. How about that? So NPR and some Dems on the House Oversight Committee, they finally get hit this reporting. They go to look at it themselves. NPR wants to follow up on the reporting. Now, the version NPR would get would be redacted, just like Rogers was. But the Dems in the Oversight Committee, they get unredacted versions, right? I told you about it. There's these calling hours that they can go and take a look. Can't bring a camera, but you can write notes and they can look at everything unredacted. So NPR goes to look and Oversight Democrats go to look and they're not there. How do we know they're not there? Well, NPR, man, they're like a dog with a bone. So they go and they look at the serial numbers of all of the pages of the Epstein files. They look and they see every page has a unique serial number. So they go to the part that used to contain these witness testimonies, and they see that the serial numbers remained, but the pages were removed. They went into the metadata of the FBI website and the DOJ website, and they found, yep, there's the metadata for these pages that used to exist. They're all gone now. So we're clear. The most credible reporting to date about Trump accusers, about accusations that Trump sexually abused and was absolutely hip to Epstein's little sex trafficking operation. The most credible accusations yet. And within 9 days, they are scrubbed by the DOJ, covered up, scrubbed. I will not make a smaller deal of this than it is. I refuse to. You wanted some there? You wanted something you could sink your teeth into? Something that really implicated Trump? Well, his DOJ just covered up, scrubbed files that were supposed to be made public by the Transparency Act. They were supposed to be made public, period. By Khanna and Massey's resolution, they say it's 3.5 million files, trying to, give a little, credibility to their, we make mistakes line that they've been giving us. It's really 2.7 million. 2.7 million files were supposed to be made public to us. They scrubbed it. They just erased it. Okay? We need to be very clear about what just happened here. And I don't care if it was her decision, or if she was told to do it, or if her deputy Todd Blanche did it, but Pam Bondi will be held responsible for this. Trump's not interested in holding her responsible for her many missteps trying to pursue, convictions against his political enemies. Failed time and time again. No repercussions for that. But this, I don't care if it was in service of her dear leader or not. She may not survive this. She may not survive this. She scrubbed files from the Epstein release that had the most credible accusations against Donald Trump so far. Of the 2.7 million files, these were the most credible. 38,000 mentions. Okay? Now, look, the Dems in the House Oversight Committee, they had already begun an investigation into these allegations reported on by Roger, right? They had already begun an investigation. That's part of the reason some of them went to go look for these files as part of an investigation into what Donald Trump did or did not do. But now they're going to open up a new investigation into Pam Bondi scrubbing files from the Epstein release. Awesome. She may have finally screwed up big time this time. This may be the big one. This may be the big gaffe, guffaw, misstep, mistake. In service of her dear leader, no doubt. This could be the fatal flaw, the fatal move, the fatal mistake. This could be it. Could be it. Now, just remember that, the Justice Department previously said the Epstein files contain untrue and sensationalist claims about the president. That has been their talking point. This blows that up. That is why it is so detrimental to this administration. And also in a February 14th little memo they sent to Congress, Pam Bondi and Todd Blanche insisted that no records were withheld or redacted on the basis of embarrassment, reputational harm, political sensitivity, including to any government official, public figure, or foreign dignitary. Just want to remind you what they said about this, what they promised to Congress. In a cute little memo, we promise. They scrubbed it. They covered it up. They covered it up. So the New York Times got wind of this. That's a heavy hitter. Thank you, Roger. NPR, we're getting a little bigger, right? An investigation out of the House, the Dems in the Oversight Committee, that's a little bit of attention, right? Not that they have a lot of power, but it's attention. But when the New York Times starts rolling with it and they start calling you, it's official. It's public. We're all going to hear about this. More details are going to come out. So the New York Times catches wind, and they contact the Justice Department and listen to the Justice Department flip and flop and just do gymnastics, Olympic level gymnastics. I mean, we're talking a different excuse 3 different days in a row, a different talking point 3 different days in a row to the New York Times. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Apollonia, just before her untimely end. Yeah, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, a brand new statement. On Monday, they said the only materials that have been withheld were privileged or duplicates. On Tuesday, they said in a brand new statement to the New York Times, the department also noted that documents could have been withheld because of an ongoing federal investigation. Of course, they still haven't none of them have directly answered the question why this woman's testimony, an FBI interview, was redacted, was removed, scrubbed. None of them have mentioned those particular accusations, those really damaging, really credible accusations. They refuse to mention them. They don't want to put that out in the ether. They're just gonna pepper us with talking points. Then on Wednesday, a brand new statement. It was reviewing which documents were released in connection to the index. The department said it would publish any documents found to have been improperly tagged in the review process that are legally required to be made public. And there it is. Oops, we did another oopsie. You release 100 victims' names. We did a oopsie. You release 21 photos of minors nude. We did a oopsie, sorry. You just scrubbed 50 pages of FBI interviews covering up for Donald Trump. Oops. Sorry. We screwed up. So many of them. I mean, it's so many. It's 3.5 million, even though it's 2.7. No, it's 3.5 million files. Mistakes are going to get made. Sorry. Was their final statement on Wednesday. You might as well release it now. Thanks, Roger. I don't know why you even did this. The guy reported on it. He reported on it. He posted the pictures of the testimony, posted it from the FBI's own presentation. He went and he got this presentation that the FBI, put together, and he took pictures of each slide of the investigation and put it in his Substack. What are we even doing here? Was the juice worth the squeeze on that? It was already out there. Whose very short-sighted decision was it to just pull those files after Roger Sullenberger reported on them? They're out there. What are you doing? Whose decision was that? Did somebody from the DOJ or maybe, an advisor or somebody come to him and say, "Oh God, look at this reporting, Don." And then Don looked at the reporting and said, "Pull him, kill it. Wherever this came from, make it go away." "Oh, but Don, it's already been reported on. We can't make it go away. But Don, you're fired." Is that how that conversation went? Just make it go away. I don't care. I don't care. Scrub it. Whoever it was, bad decision.
We'll be back to break it all down. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
Okay. I've made myself perfectly clear. They covered up the most credible accusations against Trump so far. They covered it up. They scrubbed it. I've made myself very clear and how important I think this is. Let's keep it rolling with the cover-ups, shall we? In addition to those 50 pages of interviews from the FBI that were magically disappeared, in addition to that, an extra 47,000 files containing 65,000 pages have also disappeared. Yep. They're making more stuff disappear. Now, this one to me is particularly despicable. What they did was this. They all got yelled at for unredacting those names and photos of victims and minors, right? They got yelled at here on Brett Breaks Things. I know that had an impact. on the administration. They all got called out. They got called out by everybody. It was made of national news. Huge mistake. Some think it wasn't. Some think it was retribution. Whatever it was, they got called out. So, in response to getting called out for unredacting all of this victim abuse, the victims that were abused and the details, the photos, their names, in response to that, they pulled 47,000 files. And it isn't all minors' photos, names, victim names. It isn't all stuff that was accidentally unredacted to be redacted, to clean up their mess. It wasn't. Oh no, not even close. Not even close. It is true. They did remove some of the photos, all the photos. They removed all the photos and the victims' names. They did remove that. But along with that, Along with that, they removed thousands of files from the Metropolitan Police Jail, where Epstein was held. They removed all the information about his hanging, the details leading up to it, all the investigation into his killing himself, images from his jail cell. They removed call logs. They removed evidence, photos of evidence with Epstein, all sorts of stuff. All sorts of stuff. And they did it. They did it under the guise of making their mistake right. Making it right. We're going to make it right. We unredacted all of these victims' names and photos, so we're going to make it right. And in making it right, they took 47,000 files offline, and a fraction of it had to do with these victims' names and photos. A fraction. They just decided to do cleanup of a different nature while they were at it. And when asked about it, they said, hey, you called us out. We're just trying to do right here. We're just trying to do the right thing. We got to review these. From Natalie Baldessari out of the DOJ. She said that CBS's analysis appears to be fundamentally flawed and that the department has not deleted any files from the library. But she also wrote that more than 47,000 files remain offline for further review. So she's saying you're lying about us deleting anything, and what you're right about, those 47,000 files, we're reviewing them because we got yelled at, you know. So these victims, they got used again. They got taken advantage of again. On the front end and the back end. Their names and their photos, details about them, identification, nude photos, they all get unredacted for the world to see. On the back end, the DOJ uses that mistake to justify pulling 47,000 files, many of which had nothing to do with making it right. Great. That's wonderful. Pam Bondi. You got some explaining to do, Pam. These are bigger than mistakes. These are your job. These are your job. You once again underestimated just how bipartisan the desire to hold pedophiles accountable is. You just don't get it. Trump keeps trying to say, what are we even talking about here? Why are we talking about this? We've got all of these gains, and can't believe it's still a topic of conversation. Oh, you won't let it go? Well, here's a war. And Pam over here deleting files after they've been reported on. You fail to understand how important this is to all of us. Well, it was shown to Pam on Wednesday just how bipartisan this desire is. Because the House Oversight Committee, on a bipartisan basis, Wednesday, all voted to subpoena Pam Bondi. That's right. That's right. Now, another name is attached to this that you're going to hear more about, Nancy Mace. She offered up the subpoena. Nancy Mace did. Every Democrat on the House Oversight Committee voted for it, along with Republican Tim Burchett, Republican Michael Cloud from Texas, Republican Lauren Boebert, and Republican Scott Perry. They all voted in favor of it. It passed 24-19. Just curious. I would love to hear from those 19 who voted against subpoenaing Pam Bondi. I would love to hear their justification for that. I would love to hear them try to convince me that she has no questions to answer about this. One of the largest cover-ups ever out of the DOJ. Period. I would love to hear you try to convince me that Pam Bondi doesn't have any questions to answer around this. I'd love to hear it. Love to hear it. So she's going to be subpoenaed. That's going to be appointment television. Can't wait for this. Can't wait for this. Could be her job. Could be her job. And the House Oversight Committee is busy right now, by the way. They're busy. They are investigating and want to talk to a number of people, the House Oversight Committee. Because, like I said, they're investigating, any Trump ties to Epstein. They're launching investigations based on this file release, okay? And what they can, dig into, what they can prove. They've launched investigations. Why not, right? Why not? That's what should happen. In these investigations, they now want to talk to a few people. Yep. Some people were mentioned in these files that they want to talk to as a part of their investigation. We're talking about Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, Goldman Sachs top lawyer Catherine Rumler, billionaire Leon Black, billionaire Ted Waite, and a few other people like Doug Band, former assistant to Clinton, and we'll get to the Clintons. Epstein's former assistants Leslie Groff, who we said here told you on this show that they're not done with Leslie Groff yet. This is the person who's underneath Ghislaine. She got shielded by a lot of the heat that Ghislaine took, but they're not done with Leslie Groff, and that turned out to be true. They want to talk to her, and they want to talk to Sarah Kellen, another former assistant of Epstein. A lot of these people were on that little diagram that we got into on the show where the FBI laid out possible co-conspirators. They had that little bubble diagram with offshooting bubbles with people's names in it. Yeah, all these people's names were in it. And they want to talk to them. Oh, this is great. So Gates said, I welcome the opportunity to appear before the committee. While he never witnessed or participated in any of Epstein's illegal conduct, he is looking forward to answering all of the committee's questions to support their important work. Great. Kathy Rumler. Miss Rumler welcomes the opportunity to appear before the committee. At the time she interacted with Jeffrey Epstein, she was practicing criminal defense attorney and shared a client with him. She has never done anything wrong and had no knowledge of anything that Epstein was doing. Leon Black. He looks forward to answering the committee's questions, providing additional clarity and furthering their work. I like how you switched that up. You took the words and you put them over here and then took that one over there and you said the same damn thing. He's a spokesperson for Mr. Black said, Mr. Black paid Epstein for tax and estate planning work. He had no awareness of Epstein's criminal activity. When you look into that, it's millions. Millions Leon Black paid Jeffrey Epstein in a tax and estate planning. Millions. Go check that little portion out. I mean, we did a little bit of it on the show months ago, but you want to talk about dirty? You want to talk about some there? Yeah. The House Oversight Committee has some questions for Leon Black. He paid Epstein millions for planning advice. Get the bleep out of here. Please. Please. So Pam, Bill, Leon, got some splaining to do. Pam, first you unredact victims, minors, names, and photos. Then you bury 47,000 files to make up for your mistake, along with absolutely scrubbing and burying the two most credible accusations against Donald Trump to date. Scrubbed, buried. Now, Bill Gates, somehow Epstein knew about your STDs. You end up coming out and apologizing to your wife. Kathy Rumler, very friendly with Epstein, name mentioned hundreds of times in the files. Leon Black. And the Clinton aide. Oh, the Clintons. Well, they talked to the Clintons. We put it off for a little while. We wanted to see what was really there, and we'll bring you the little bit that actually came from their depositions.
Breaking politics, breaking narratives, breaking news. But first, we need a coffee break. You're back with Brett Breaks Things, because democracy doesn't defend itself.
Okay. So you want to know what the Clintons said? Not a whole lot. I mean, honestly, there wasn't really a lot there. For Hillary, she was kind of triggered. She didn't want to be there. She fought being there for a long time. She got into it with Nancy Mace over some bull crap because Hillary was senator of New York in 2001, and Nancy started poking at her because she had relationship with Lutnick at the time, who Lutnick, it's now coming out, may have had a relationship with Epstein, so she's trying to connect dots in 2001. And they had some kind of little exchange where Nancy was like, how do you explain this? I'm only trying to protect victims that I am. I'm a victim. And Hillary shot back. Well, I was busy trying to save people's lives in an attack from terrorists. So, okay, so there's a little moment between Nancy Mason and Hillary. And Hillary also dodged questions about pictures of Bill in a hot tub. And so Bill, he was a lot more cool. He was a lot more calm and collected. He said, look, it was a business relationship at best. He really talked about how Larry Summers introduced him, and he took a couple plane rides with him. They talked about politics and economics, and Bill said, I really wasn't, I really didn't see eye to eye to him on humanitarian stuff, so I stopped talking to him. But look, nobody has been forthcoming about what has been reported in the Epstein files. Nobody. Everybody who's been pointed at, when they talk about it, they have not been forthcoming, and we just wait for more and more evidence to come out. I think Bill lied quite a bit in that deposition. Can I say that, Scotty, and move on? I think Bill lied quite a bit in that deposition. I especially can't shake that image of Bill Clinton in a dress owned by Epstein. It doesn't sit great with me. Do I think Bill abused anybody? I can't get there. Do I think Bill knew a lot more about Epstein than he's leading on? And do I think Bill spent more time or maybe was better friends than he's leading on? Yeah, I do. I'm sorry, I do. And I'm going to leave it at that. Let's talk more about cover-ups, shall we? I promised you I'd mention the Bill stuff, and I did. The Hillary stuff, and I did. Nothing there. Really nothing there. But just know that they're trying to pave the way to get Donald to a similar deposition, right? They're trying to normalize it, right? Ex-presidents, they're trying to normalize it. I promise you. They're trying to get to Don. All right. Nancy Mace. Let's talk about Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace, who is running for governor of South Carolina, she forced a House floor vote on a resolution. Okay? This is in response to what happened with Tony Gonzalez. This effort by Mace ramped up after the details of Tony Gonzalez, who's right now in a runoff in Texas with Brandon Herrera, details about his affair with a staffer, and then that staffer then killed herself after he, blackballed her, cut her out of office affairs, stopped talking to her, didn't treat her very well. None of the rest of the staff did, and she committed suicide. He denied it. Reporting kept coming out. Nancy Mace, she took her opportunity. She forced a vote on a resolution that would release all the details of reports and allegations of congressional lawmakers and aides aiding or engaging in sexual misconduct or harassment. Okay. So she wanted all of this released. There's an office that handles this. There are records. She wants it all released. The alternative to her vote, the alternative to the releasing of all this, is a referral to the Ethics Committee. And just so we're clear, referring it back to the committee from which the list they wish to pry from is killing this. Okay? She wants the Ethics Committee to release all of this. The rest of Congress, the rest of the House is saying no. Refer this back to the House Ethics Committee. Refer it back to them so they can handle it however they want to handle it, which is killing it. Killing the release of all these details. Who, what, where, when, why, and how much. So she forced this vote. How do you think the House voted? You may say to yourself, well, she's a Republican, so there's got to be some Republican support for it. But it raises the question immediately in your mind, how many House members are not interested in releasing the names of people who have been harassing people? Whatever that number is in your mind, whatever that percentage is, I promise you, it's much higher. Much, much higher. That vote went, it died and was referred back to the House Ethics Committee. How bad was it defeated? 357 to 65. 357 House Republicans and Democrats all said, hell no. We are not releasing that list. Now, the Ethics Committee themselves had been jockeying the House members to refer it back to them prior to the vote. They said in a joint statement, the Republican and Democratic leaders of the committee argued it could chill victim cooperation and witness participation in ongoing and future investigations and would make it harder for the committee to investigate and eliminate sexual misconduct in the House. Oh, you slimy bastards. You sneaky, slimy. They're saying we can't release this because if we release this, nobody will ever report anything ever again. Their anonymity will be compromised. They won't want to come and cooperate with us. The reports will go down. We can't release the details. But they are being disingenuous. These things can be amended. You can protect victims' names while still releasing the offenders' names. You can do that. How do we know you can do that? Because we just released 2.7 Epstein files, 2.7 million Epstein files. Now, yes, Pam Bondi and the DOJ screwed that up royally, but that's 2.7 million files. This is not 2.7 million files. You can get this right pretty damn easily, especially compared to the Epstein mess. This would be easy to handle. Just redact the victims and release the offenders. Pretty straightforward and simple. But the ethics committee is saying, nope, we can't do that. That's impossible. This would just screw everything all up. We'd never have another report again. Oh, they argued about it. Now, this was Massey back in 2018 raising a stink about this. Massey's been pushing back against the establishment, the Republican establishment, little by little since then. Here's Massey in 2018 bringing it up.
You know, Congress has paid over $17 million in hush money for sexual misconduct inside of the offices in these buildings. And what's more is that was taxpayer money. Right? The allegation is that President Trump paid $130,000 of his own money. But here in Congress, there may be some on this dais. I mean, I'm for turning loose all of these records. Who in here has had the taxpayer pay for their sexual misconduct
That's right.
charges, the hush money? I bet there's some over there. There may be some over here. I don't know, but I do know it's taxpayer money, and I do know not a single penny of it has been turned in as a campaign finance expense.
That's right. In 2018, Massey saw it for what it was, called them all out. You all are sexually abusing people, and the taxpayers are paying for it. Plain and simple. Plain and simple. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to give you just a couple Democrats who voted against referring it. A couple Democrats who went with Nancy Mace in releasing all of this. This I find fun. Jared Golden, married with 2 kids. Marie Glusenkamp Perez, married with a kid. Ro Khanna, married with 2 kids. They voted to release all the names and the money. They voted to release it. And man, did they score points at home, huh? I mean, Ro just striding back into the home, and his wife's waiting there. Can you believe these guys, honey? You believe these guys? They won't vote to release these names. I voted because, baby, I got nothing to hide. I love you so much, Ro. I love you so much. These guys, right? Ro's there. These guys, what are these guys hiding, right? You scored so many points, Ro and Jared. I am an equal opportunity show here, and I'm not going to say that women can't be harassing people. Well, we know Marie Glusenkamp Perez isn't harassing people because she got to go home to her husband and say, you believe these scumbags? 357 of them want to continue to bury sexual abuse allegations and payouts? Alternately, you 357, you got some explaining to do. Look, you can tell the American people all you want that this is going to compromise investigations going forward. We're not going to have any more whistleblowers. We're not going to have any more accusers because they're afraid their information will get out. We got to protect people. You can tell the American people that all you want. Go try that on your wife. Ah, baby, I couldn't vote for that. We got to protect the victims. No. Hit the couch. What the hell are you hiding? You better go vote to release these names. I want to know. 357 of you. You got some explaining to do. Okay, so just so we're clear about what we're talking about, because this is how we do it here. Just so we're clear about what we're talking about. We're talking about the Office of Compliance, okay? The Office of Compliance. They have had to compile all of the money paid out to victims from congressmen, okay? The Office of Compliance has released recently, in the face of some of this new talk about releasing the figures, they have compiled a number that they have paid out. 17 million is the number, just like Massey said. 17 million. This was a report from 2017, though, just right around the time that Massey talked about it. The number's higher now. It's higher now. This is reporting from CNN in 2017 because I wanted you to understand what they're talking about in terms of how this is paid out, okay? The money is paid out. The money we're talking about, the 17 million, and it's higher now, was from 1997 to 2017, okay? The Office of Compliance has been in operation doing this for 20 years, okay? There have been 268 settlements in that time. And yes, they come out of a special fund set up through the U.S. Treasury, our money to pay these settlements. So I'm just curious. That's real cute, by the way. That's real cute. The Office of Compliance gets these complaints, decides to give out a settlement. Then they go to the U.S. Treasury and take our money out to settle these complaints with millions. That's cute. I'm just curious. What incentive do any of these people have to not sexually abuse and harass people? We won't release the names, and the taxpayers foot the bill. Just explain to me exactly why these people would stop doing this. Any reason at all? And by the way, somebody knows. Somebody knows. I'll tell you who knows. Okay? The House Administration Committee, the chair of the House Administration Committee handles these complaints personally. So, if they want to lean on anybody and find out who knows what and who's in there, they go to this list of chairs of the House Administration Committee. At the time, it was Greg Harper. Now it's Brian Steele. But there's a whole list from 97 to now of chairs of the House Administration Committee. That is who knows, just so we're clear, just so you want to know who to point to if you want to know who did these things. The chair of the House Administration Committee, they know who's what and who's where. I do want to mention this just on the back end. You know what? We're going to go overtime because I'm just going to tack on two little amending stories to what we just talked about. So I'm going to go to overtime. Come back with me.
It's time for a quick break, then we break some more. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things. You're listening to Brett Breaks Things, pushing back, speaking up, and holding the line.
Okay. This is going to be a quick overtime. Two names I mentioned already, Tony Gonzalez and Nancy Mace. First, Tony Gonzalez. You know the story. We report on the story. The details are coming out. Now there's an investigation into him. Tony Gonzalez, a rep from Texas, is in a runoff with Brandon Herrera right now. He is losing barely, and they're in a runoff. He went on a radio interview with Joe Pagliarulo. Joe Pagliarulo. He went on a radio interview with Joe. And he admitted that he had a sexual relationship with his former staffer. After not talking about it months after her death, after saying time and time again, I'm not going to resign. I did nothing wrong. All the reporting is false. That has been his posture for months. He now goes on this radio show and he admits he did it. And he does it pretty indignantly. Honestly, it gave me the Udigats. It really did. He said, I made a mistake. I had a lapse in judgment. There was a lack of faith, and I take full responsibility for those actions. Okay, that's not so bad. But then he went on to say, God has forgiven him for his actions. God has forgiven him, is what he went on to say at one point. I don't know. I mean, this admission came just hours after the investigation from the committee, the House Ethics Committee started. Okay, so and let's be clear: the reason the Ethics Committee is investigating him is because it is a violation. It is a House violation to have a sexual relationship with your staffer. That is why he's in trouble. That's why the House Ethics Committee is investigating him. Hours after they announced the investigation into him, he admitted on this radio show that he did it. I mean, okay. I mean, the multiple reports about it, details, her best friend, other staffers. I mean, it's been reported on quite a bit in the last 72 week or so. So, I mean, honestly, he should have resigned as soon as the reporting surfaced in September. He should have resigned then. So now he's going to lose a runoff to Brandon Herrera and get investigated. But he admitted he did it. And I just want to leave you with this. Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace, who has been a vocal critic of the DOJ, the FBI, and some of the things Trump said about Epstein survivors and the Epstein Transparency Act, how they've handled it, how few interviews with survivors Republicans have had, how little Trump takes, how not seriously Trump takes this and some of his comments. She has been a vocal critic of the DOJ, the FBI, and Donald Trump on this. Vocal. Now, she's coming out. She's demanding the resignation of Tony Gonzalez. The Republicans cannot afford any seats. They can't afford any seats. They just can't. They tried to talk around the Gonzalez issue, but Mace would not. Mace would not play that game. She didn't spin it. She didn't avoid it or kick it. She talked right to it. Again, at the detriment of the Republican Party. Mace called him out, asked for his resignation. Now Mace is out here, and she's proposing resolutions to uncover all of the House members who have been sexually abusing people since 1997. She wants to know who did what to who and exactly how much was paid out. Mace. Well, the House Ethics Committee, the committee that lobbied against her resolution, the committee that said, we don't want to release these names, we want to handle it however we want to handle it, Nancy. That same committee announced Monday that it is looking into allegations against Nancy Mace that she overbilled her congressional office for funds to maintain her house. Why her? Why right now? That's some real House of Cards crap right there. That's some real down and dirty, Capitol Hill politicking right there. That's the dirty. That is some House of Cards stuff right there. And it's right in our face. That's the point. Everybody can see. You want to speak out against this administration? You want to threaten lawmakers with exposing them as sexual abusers? You want to try to weaken our position in Texas? You want to talk down to Donald Trump? You want to do these things? Investigation. Boom. We're going to investigate you. Of all the House members. Of all 430 whatever of them. Of all the House members. It's Nancy right now. How about that? The Ethics Committee said in a press release that is reviewing an Office of Congressional Conduct report into allegations that Mace engaged in improper reimbursement practices. She consistently requested and received the maximum allowable reimbursement from a program meant to help House members pay their D.C. living costs. Invoices for utility bills and other documents. They identified discrepancies. They said she billed her office for about $9,500. That's what we're talking about. $9,500 in home improvements they want to investigate her over. Right at the same time, she demands transparency about $17 million paid out to the victims of sexual abuse perpetrated by congressmen. How about that? That's Washington. That's our government at play. That's how these people get down. That's how they get down. That's House of Cards stuff right there. I'm not a big fan of Nancy Mace, but I'm also not a big fan of that. An investigation into $9,000 worth of possible home improvement fraud when she tried to hold you accountable for $17 million in sexual harassment payouts. Not a fan of that either. I'll see you guys tomorrow.